Welcome, Kenny. A man hitchhiking on the side of the road, and he looked kind of disheveled. Looked a little bit filthy. Hair was kind of greasy. And one of the first vehicles that sees him picks him up and jumps in. The driver's there with him, just the driver. And as they drive along for a minute or two of silence, the hitchhiker says, "Oh, I'm surprised you picked me up. Like, I look kind of rough. I tried hitchhiking yesterday. No one picked me up. You didn't even ask me any questions. Like, I could have been a serial killer." To which the driver responds, said, nah. What are the odds of two serial killers being in the same vehicle? Should have asked some questions before he got into the vehicle, right? It's good to ask questions when you're getting to know somebody. We ask questions to people all the time as we're meeting someone new. From what is your name, to where do you work, or where do you live, to more personal things of like, what type of music do you like? What did your grandparents do for work? What do you do for fun outside of your working life? Do you have a mentor? Or huge existential questions like, when you go to the movie theater, which armrest is yours, left or right? Right? Or questions that don't even have an answer, like, should pineapple belong on pizza? Right? Those are questions you need to answer. Questions are how we get to know each other. Last week we had the fantastic time of honoring and remember Jesus' death on Good Friday, and then celebrating Jesus' resurrection on Easter Sunday. And if perhaps some of you came out to church for the first time last Sunday, or maybe came back to church after a season away, then this sermon series that we're starting is a great follow-up to that Easter weekend. It's called Jesus in His Own Words. And people have been asking questions about who Jesus is for centuries. For the last 2,000 years, people have been summarizing and making conclusions around saying, this is who Jesus is. And some have been true conclusions, some have been partly true conclusions, and some have been not true at all. And the fascinating thing is that when people haven't wrestled with who Jesus is just over the centuries, but when Jesus was alive on earth, people were wrestling with it and asking questions and trying to understand who He is. They asked him many questions about it. And the first one we're going to look at today to kick off our series comes to us in John 8, and it's sort of a grounding foundation for us as we look at what Jesus said about Himself as people ask questions of Him. We take it up in John 8, verse 25, where He's having an argument with the religious elite, the Pharisees, and they ask this, "Who are you?" they demanded. Blunt, clear, demanding, and they're not asking from a place of like genuine spiritual curiosity. They're asking from a place of anger and frustration about Jesus. And He gives them an answer that gives them enough clarity to fill in the blanks. He says, Jesus replied, "The one I have always claimed to be. I have much to say about you and much to condemn, but I won't, for I say only what I have heard from the one who sent me. And He is completely truthful." But they still didn't understand that He was talking about His Father. Now, then there's a long discourse after this. After Jesus, it starts to, and I won't read it right now, but basically Jesus is trying to unpack for them that He is only doing what His Father has told Him to do. And they don't understand Him or who He is or what He's saying because they are not children of the Heavenly Father, but children of the devil. So that's how Jesus, what He calls them and what He says to them. Of course, they get angry and irate around that, and then they respond with this. The people retorted, "You Samaritan devil, didn't we say all along that you were possessed by a demon?" So this is their response to Jesus. There's that phrase, if you can't beat them, then abuse them. And that's what's going on here, is that Jesus is arguing with them, has called them out, and then they just start to heap abuse upon Him, calling Him Samaritan, meaning a mixed heritage, like impure, and calling Him the devil or possessed by a demon. But Jesus is always very clear about exactly who He is. And in His own words, He explains it. He says, "No," Jesus said, "I have no demon in me, for I honor my Father, and you dishonor me. And though I have no wish to glorify myself, God is going to glorify me." That's speaking to the cross and the resurrection. He is the true judge. I tell you the truth, anyone who obeys my teaching will never die." The people said, "Now we know you are possessed by a demon. Even Abraham and the prophets died. But you say anyone who obeys my teaching will never die? Are you greater than our father Abraham? He died, and so did the prophets. Who do you think you are?" Again, the question, who do you think you are, Jesus? Who are you? If someone stood up in our congregation today and said, "By the way, I am God in the flesh. Everyone, you need to obey everything I say, and you need to share my message with the world," we'd be like, "Okay, we have another nutball in the house. We need to find a new church, because this one is now starting a cult, and they are picking out what color Kool-Aid they want." However, Jesus responds with continuing the line of thought that he is more than a man as he communicates to these religious leaders. He says this, Jesus answered, "If I wanted to glorify myself, it doesn't count. But it is my Father who will glorify me. You say he is our God, but you don't even know him. I know him. If I said otherwise, I would be as great a liar as you. But I do know him and obey him. Your father Abraham rejoiced as he looked forward to my coming. He saw it and was glad." And then this next sentence, this next thing that happens, is they begin to question him on him saying Abraham looking forward to it. It says, "The people said, 'You aren't even 50 years old. How can you say you have seen Abraham?'" And then Jesus gives an answer that gives them no shadow of a doubt of who he is claiming to be. And it just rocks them, offends them, astounds them. He says, Jesus answered, "I tell you the truth. Before Abraham was even born, I am." At that point, they picked up stones to throw at him. But Jesus was hidden from them and left the temple. Because they are reacting this way, because this is such an audacious claim. Jesus is saying, without a shadow of a doubt, I am taking the name that God uses. I am. I am God in the flesh. And so they want to respond with anger with him. They want to respond that even though he's answered the question clearly, even though he has said it plainly, they can't receive it. We all know what it's like, and we can pick it out quickly when you know someone's avoiding a question, right? Like, "Where did all the money go?" "I'll have to get back to you." "Are my uncles and aunts coming to the wedding?" "I'm considering it." "How much was your car?" "More than the last one." Or my favorite, "Do you want to serve at church?" "I'll pray about it." However, Jesus does not dance around the questions. He does not give avoidance whatsoever. He is the I am. Now, where does this phrase come from, and what does it mean? What does the I am mean? It comes from way back deep into the Old Testament when God is speaking with Moses. Moses is hiding in the desert. He has fled Egypt, and he's hiding out in the desert for a long time, many years. And then God appears to him in the burning bush that does not burn up and speaks to Moses. And he's calling Moses to stop hiding and that he's going to send Moses back to Egypt as a leader to speak to Pharaoh and to lead the Hebrew people out of slavery, out of Egypt. So that's the context of where that name first came from. We read about it in Exodus 3, where the conversation is like this. But Moses protested to God, "Who am I to appear before Pharaoh? Who am I to lead the people of Israel out of Egypt?" God answered, "I will be with you, and this is your sign that I am the one who has sent you. When you've brought the people out of Egypt, you will worship God at this very mountain." But Moses protested, "If I go to the people of Israel and tell them the God of our ancestors has sent me to you, they will ask, 'What is his name?' Then what should I tell them?" But God replied to Moses, "I am who I am. Say this to the people of Israel, 'I am has sent me to you.'" God also said to Moses, "Say this to the people of Israel, Yahweh, the God of your ancestors, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and God of Jacob, has sent me to you. This is my eternal name, my name to remember for all generations." And there we have the first use of this name, the I am who I am. The I am has sent you. Scholars have debated what this means, this name means for centuries on end. There's some things we can conclude from it is that God is saying, I am self-sufficiency. I self-exist on my own. My will is complete. I don't need anything to exist or to be. Also, the I am is here to rescue, to deliver, because that's what he's telling Moses. Go, I'm sending you, and I'm going to be with you, and I'm going to help deliver the people. That God is saying, I am eternally constant, always and forever. And then Jesus uses the same name for himself. He answers the question clearly of who he is in his own words. The late author C.S. Lewis had said it this way. He popularized this argument called the liar, lunatic, or Lord, sort of identity examples of what Jesus could be. And he didn't come up with it, but he made it popular. He said this about Jesus' identity. He said, I am trying to prevent anyone saying the really foolish thing that people often say about him, Jesus. I'm ready to accept Jesus as a great moral teacher, but I don't accept his claim to be God. That is the one thing we must not say. A man who was merely a man and said the sort of things Jesus said would not be a great moral teacher. He'd either be a lunatic on the level of the man who says he is a poached egg, or else he'd be the devil of hell. You must make your choice. Either this man was and is the Son of God, or else a madman or something worse. You can shut him up for a fool, you can spit at him and kill him as a demon, or you can fall at his feet and call him Lord and God. But let us not come with any patronizing nonsense about his being a great human teacher. He has not left that open to us. He did not intend to. Now, it seems to me obvious that he was neither a lunatic nor a fiend, and consequently, however strange or terrifying or unlikely it may seem, I have come to the view that he was and is God. That's where C.S. Lewis landed after years of atheism and dialogue and research. But that's the confrontation that each of us must wrestle with as we ask questions of who is Jesus? And it was not only people asking Jesus who he was, Jesus also asked questions. He also had conversations with his own followers and disciples, asking them to unpack who Jesus is. For example, in the Gospel of Luke, we read, once when Jesus was praying in private and his disciples were with him, he asked them, who do the crowds say I am? They replied, some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and still others that one of the prophets of long ago has come back to life. But what about you? He asked. Who do you say that I am? Peter answered, God's Messiah. God's Messiah, the one, God's presence here to deliver and to save. Deliver us from what? Save us from what? From being separated from God's goodness and holiness and pure love. God cannot be present to things that are broken and sinful like humanity, and so Jesus came to deliver and make a way for us to be in relationship and connection with God for eternity. And when we let Jesus be who he said he is, we are coming to the greatest known truth in the universe. And that is our launching place, our foundation, as we go into these coming weeks and these different texts that we're going to look at, where Jesus answered questions about who he is in his own words. This is our foundation, that he declared himself God walking among humanity, here to deliver and to save. Join with me as we close in prayer, and then we're going to take communion together. Heavenly Father, I thank you that you are good. I thank you for these conversations where Jesus was very clear around who he is and what he was here to do, that he is the great I am, the one who is all, who is self-sufficient, self-existent, and is here and able to deliver. So, Lord, as we look at these different moments where Jesus talked about who exactly he is, that we would be re-inspired, even if we've been following him for decades, that we would be re-inspired with things that he said about who he is. Praise things in Jesus' name. Amen.